record. Had to clear out my Zoom earlier because it was like kept getting emails like it's almost full. Like, yeah, that sounds like me as well. Gotta declutter. So how is everyone feeling today? I feel like, don't know about you guys, but I feel such a relaxed vibe. I was saying to Monica and the other ladies that were on here that, oh, let me just mute you, Arena, that I'm recovering from what it feels like a 10-day cold. I mean, it started last Monday, so feeling very relaxed. I actually feel, yeah, it feels very chilled, doesn't it? It feels super chilled. It's like zen. There's like normally, even to the point where my ego is like, what is going on? There's something wrong. Like, why are you not super? Normally when I do a masterclass, I'm like super like buzzy, and not to say I'm not buzzy, but it's definitely a more chilled, surrendered. I also just got back from like my waxing, so I'm like, you know, feeling beautified and womanly and feminine and all of that glorious stuff. So yeah, if you guys want to introduce yourself in the chat to get to know each other, because I know that I know you all, but I always think and feel that these masterclasses are an amazing opportunity to get to connect and get to know each other. And I feel like you're literally from all over the world. Like I know some of you, hi Erin, I know some of you are in Europe, America, Australia. No, I don't think there's any Australia unless you're literally it would be the middle of your night. Amazing. Yeah, lots of energies in the moment. I know it's just Canada Day and then 4th of July as well, so it's like there's a lot going on. Hello from Ireland, Kim from South Africa. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so I'd also love to hear as well, for my own sake, why you joined this masterclass and what vibe you were getting from it, because I know I didn't give too much away. It triggered me. Erin, I love your honesty. Some of your posts trigger me, Erin, so that's perfect. You're welcome. I'm welcome. It's all a gift. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of, as always, but especially recently, there's a lot of triggers coming up. And actually, I know I only started promoting this masterclass. When was it? Sunday? Yeah, it was, no, Saturday I had the idea for the masterclass, because Friday is the day that I found out that I'd got this job, this contract. And I was like, I really want to share with people about the experience of what happened and really dive into, and for those of you that saw my live on Facebook the other day, I kind of touched upon what I'm going to be talking about here, and how I learned that basically I experienced, because life is for the experience, how manifestation really works. And it literally blew everything that I thought and knew about manifestation out of the water. It was an experience that was like, forget it all, like forget out everything you've learned. We're starting again. That's what it feels like. It's like, and exactly like Erin said, it was really uncomfortable because it was a complete surrender. And I spoke about this on my live stream on Tuesday, because I just started riffing about this, and how, you know, we talk a lot about surrender and giving up control, but it's one thing to say it, and I feel like we're all kind of past the affirmations and that kind of stuff. And it's another thing to actually experience life, because life is one big unknown. And I said this in my live stream the other day, if we feel like we're in control in any situation, you know, people feel like they're in control because their business is going well, or because they got a job, or because they have a job, or because their relationship's going well or whatever. And then on the flip side, obviously people feel like they're out of control if quote unquote bad things are happening in their life. Their business is falling apart, their relationship is falling apart. But really, we have no control. And like, that is the, even saying it, I'm like, that is the scariest thing about this. It's the paradox of being a human and a soul, a human and a spirit, that you're human. All of our humans have been, you know, no matter what your upbringing was, we have all been conditioned. It's the collective conditioning to be under the illusion of control. When people say like the veil, that's what I kind of think of as the greatest illusion is control, from what I see, you know, in the sense of controlling each other, controlling our business, controlling our life. Like, and this is what I was sharing about in the live stream the other day, is that God sourced the universe. And when I talk about God, I'm not talking about it in the religious sense. I feel like you guys know that, but just as a disclaimer, I'm not talking about it in a religious sense, but, or like the man in the sky, but the energy, life force, God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it, has far greater and grander plans in store for you than your human could ever wish for, dream up, think of, imagine, visualize. Because actually, I just had a download that even from the age of being small children, we are taught to have dreams. How many of you were asked when you were little, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's how we were all conditioned, right? To be like, this is crazy. We were all conditioned from a very young age, and even beyond that, past lives, the collective conditioning for centuries, we have been conditioned to be under the illusion of control. And when you awaken to this and realize it, you see it everywhere. Literally everywhere. You see that there are people teaching, and this is not a judgment, it's whatever level of consciousness you're at. You see people teaching, follow your dreams, go after what you want. Pretty much the whole manifestation industry is based around have a desire and then align with it, work on your beliefs, mindset, conscious reprogramming. You know, I'm sure you guys have experienced much of that. That's probably why you're here, I would assume. And that's not to say that with your divine, what I call your divine destiny, your soul's path, what you are here to experience, that's not to say that in order to have that, it just drops in your lap, because that's not the experience that you came here to have. That's not the experience of life, of being a human. That's not how God sourced the universe, created it to be. God sourced the universe, and this is co-creation. You decided with God sourced the universe, your soul decided what your life was going to be like. And it would be, what experience of life would you have if you came here and you were like, yeah, this is what I'm going to experience. And it's just like, boom, boom, boom. And it all happens. That wouldn't be much of an experience, would it? It would just kind of be like, oh, because God source the universe, created us with a mind and with an ego, created darkness and light, created contrast so that we could experience everything. Because I remember one of my friends said this to me one point last year. I said to her, I just want to experience the fullness of life. And she's like, do you know what that means? I'm like, I think so. She's like, that means everything. That means the light and the dark. And obviously our human just wants to experience the good stuff. But then what even is good or bad? And those of you that have come to a few of my masterclasses will know that will have heard me talk about this. Our ego is the one that has preferences. Our ego is the one that deems things to be good or bad based on our past. So when you go, and you guys may have even experienced this before, say you have a certain desire. Oh, I have a really good example. just one desire. Just one example, but I have loads more, but this is the one that's coming right now. With my partner, I had an idea, because of my conditioning, of what I wanted my partner to be like. Who can relate to this? And my friends would say to me, oh, you're never gonna meet someone, you have too many things on your list, you know, your criteria is way too long, you're just gonna have to settle. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna settle. But I had the completely different idea of what I wanted my partner to be like to what he's like. I wanted this blonde, white surfer dude, maybe from Australia. I don't know where I got this from. I think from watching like those who were, well, I used to watch this show called H2O that was about like this mermaid. So I think I had this like whole like seaside thing. Anyway, we met through a dating app, and I was on this dating app, and I said to my friend and my boss at the job that I was at the time, I was like, I'm just not that attracted to this guy. Like, I'm just not really like feeling it. Like I'm enjoying our conversations, but I'm just not. And my best friend, who recently got married, and my boss at the time were like, you're going on this date. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll go on this date. Normally, what the world teaches you is that you should like have not even have a list, but go after what excites you, you know, go after your dreams, go after what it is that you desire. But anyway, long story short, I went on our first date and I saw him from like far away. I was walking towards him and I was like, oh my God, is that him? And then I felt something. Those of you that have like, okay, not necessarily been in love, because I don't think it was that at that point, but that attraction, that magnetism that you're like, and I was so surprised. I was like, oh my gosh. And to this day, I thank my best friend and my boss and myself for going on that date, because we've been together for 5 years now. And I can now see there's been times when my ego has been like, break up with him, because he triggers me a lot. Soul connection spark. Love that. He triggers me so, and I know I trigger him too. And there's been, again, because of our conditioning around relationships, around you should be with someone that's like this. And I do feel sorry for men in that sense, that they have this whole like thing to live up to. It's a lot of pressure. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on both men and a lot of pressure on all of us from society. When there are people, there are opportunities that are meant for us, but we get in the way through merging with what we think is right for us. But why do we even think that's right for us? And how do we even know that that's right for us? Because it's the same with the recent job that I got. Exact same thing. So much resistance. I don't want a job. I don't want to work for anyone else. I especially don't want to work with men, because I had this whole conditioning and wounding and trauma come up around the masculine, around men. A lot of father wounds came up. And I was like, no, I don't, my ego was literally throwing everything at me to tell me not to go on this date, not still on the date, to tell me not to go on the date, to tell me not to go for the job, to tell me not to go to the interview. It was like, nah, this isn't what you want to do. No, you want to continue with your coaching business. Same with like the first date with my partner. No, you don't want someone like that. You want to be my boyfriend's he's half Indian, so he's like dark-skinned, brunette hair. I was like, no, you want to be with a blonde surfer dude. But you see how we sabotage ourselves all the time. And I made a reel about this earlier. You guys, go and watch this reel, because it was inspired by a conversation I had with somebody on Facebook. And she was saying, she's like, I just feel like nothing is happening. She's like, nobody is signing up to work with me. I just feel like nothing is happening. But it's like, who says that? Who decides that? Who decides that there is nothing happening? Who decides whether something is for you or not? It's your ego that decides. And your ego only knows the past. So it's perfectly fine to keep going after what you want, after your dreams, after your wishes, after your goals, but it comes at a cost. Control comes at a cost. It comes at a price. And that price is that in the moment, it may feel good to be in the illusion of control. And I said this on my live the other day. Who's seen the film The Matrix? I can't remember which Matrix film it is, but basically they go back to the illusion, and the illusion actually looks pretty nice. So it's, the illusion feels nice. It's that short-term fix, that short-term hit, and even short-term fix. But meanwhile, as I talked about in my reel earlier today, God, source, the universe is like, hello, like, I'm trying to show you all of these opportunities, all of these people, places, things, whatever it is. It's not our job to know what it is. And all the while you're sat there like, nothing is happening. It would be like if I didn't go on the date with is Cypher in the first film? Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rachel. It would be like if I didn't go on this first date with my partner, and then I sat there like, just mute Rebecca. If I didn't go on the first date with my partner and then was sat there like, well, I'm never going to meet anyone. My friends were right. I need to settle. And then I could have potentially been in a relation, and everything happens for you, right? So then, I mean, God knows what could have happened. Like, I could have ended up in relationships that weren't meant for me. You know, I'm not even 100% sure that the relationship I'm in is meant for me. But what I know is that with unconditional devotion, which is the way, unconditional devotion, when things come to you, so my partner, this job, I can't think of any other examples right now, but I'm sure you guys can think of many examples in your own lives. My job, our job, is to unconditionally devote to that. And going back to what this person was saying to me, that, you know, nothing's happening, again, is it that nothing's happening? I mean, life doesn't stop. It's constant. Change, evolution, growth, it's the only constant. Life keeps going. So it's not that nothing's happening, it's that according to your ego, and therefore according to your conditioning, nothing is happening. But all the while, so much is happening. An infinite number of things are happening. It's like, I always get the visual of someone being in a box and they're like in the box, aka ego matrix, whatever you want to call it. And this is not me saying the ego is bad, by the way. I'm going to talk about that. We've given the ego the wrong job. But you're sat in this box and you're like looking around. How many of us do this? I still do this, where I'm like, exactly like that person said earlier, nothing's working. You're looking around, you're merging with the form around you, you've, whatever it is, you've had an argument with your partner, your business isn't where you want it to be, everything feels like it's falling apart. All the while, outside that box of your conditioning, outside that box of your perception, there is so much happening. It's like a playground out there. It's heaven on earth. It's your Eden, but you can't access that because you're too busy, and God gave you free will for this reason. You're too busy and preoccupied in the illusion, merging with perception, with what you perceive. And this is where we must focus on energy rather than form, because energy is all that is real. This 3D reality that we live in is a shadow reality. You shine light on an object, and then you can't really see a shadow here. Oh yeah, you kind of can. You shine light on an object and it creates a shadow. That's exactly this reality we live in. Energy is a prerequisite for everything. But what we're obviously taught and conditioned to do and believe is that form is almighty. Form is what we should focus on. So we should focus on our lives, on our external reality, what we see, and try and change it. Change our beliefs. When God source the universe, I see as just sat over there like chuckling, because it's like life is so much easier than that. Like, you're doing, or maybe you're not, but a lot of people do all of this belief work, manifestation work, visualizing, all of this work to have something that maybe isn't even your divine destiny. And that is the path to resistance, to most resistance. Merging with your mind and your ego is the path to most resistance, because with manifestation, what we've been taught is go through the mind and the ego, go through the illusion of control, dream, wish for things. Hi, Katia. Hi, Tara. Go after what you want. When actually, that was not the role meant to be assigned to the mind and the ego. The mind and the ego was never meant to get involved in the manifestation of things. The manifestation of things happens through you merging with life itself, with life force, with God's source universe. And the only way to do that is through devoting to what comes to you. And I know how uncomfortable the devotion is when it is not something comfortable. And a lot of the time it isn't comfortable, when it's not something familiar, when it is something that brings up all of your fears, trauma, wounding, doubts, limiting beliefs, which is why, and like this is what should be taught in schools, which is why this is where purification has to come in, because I now know, having experienced firsthand something coming to me, it triggering my deepest, darkest wounds. And as you know, because we've spoken about this before, your wounds have been created to cover up your gifts so that you could rediscover your gifts. So it's the contrast. So not even look for your wounds, because they'll come up anyway. I was about to say look for your wounds and find your gifts, but beneath your wounds, you will uncover your gifts. Because my greatest fears were, one of my greatest fears was fear of the masculine, was the father wound. And this job involves working with a lot of men in a very masculine environment. And I was like, and it's when you start to, and what this is where awareness comes in, you start to have discernment around what is happening. You realize, you're like, this is sovereignty. Okay, I'm getting triggered. I'm feeling fearful. What is coming up, right? Like, what am I afraid of? What is the fear that's coming up? And then you're like, oh, okay. So that's why I manifested this. Because like Abraham Hicks says, ask and it is given, which is the absolute truth. But it's not ask and it will be given in a way that is comfortable for your ego. It is ask and it will be given, full stop. So you may not like what is given. And a lot of the time we're blind, like I said, because we're in this cage, we're in this box, and we can't see beyond that. So we're like, I asked for this thing and it's not come. And all the while, God, source, the universe is like, well, I've thrown you X, Y, Z. How can you not see this? You can't see it because you're too busy focusing on whatever you're focusing on, whether it be the lack of it manifesting, whether it be or the perceived lack of it manifesting, I should say, or it not manifesting in the way that you wanted it to, being triggered. Because when we are triggered, as you guys know, we go into this kind of spiral, and then we start to feel like, sometimes we go into victimhood and we're like, oh, nothing ever works out for me. And then we go into this kind of self-perpetuated suffering of like, everything's going wrong, nothing is going my way, everything is falling apart. All the while God is like, no, everything is falling together. Everything falls apart. What is not you, what is not who you truly are, has to fall apart. You have to break away from that. And that, ask and it is given, that is what has been given to you. So does anyone have any questions, by the way? I know I missed a few people joining. Who did I miss? Tara, Shayna, Rebecca, Rayana, Lisa, Joy, Jessica, Daharis, Alexandra, Lissa. Yeah, does anyone have any questions, by the way? Can I take a quick picture before I forget? Let me take a quick picture before I forget, because I usually forget. Okay. If you can put your camera on, great. If you can't, no worries. Put your camera on now if you want to. No pressure. Okay. And do your, I don't know, do your natural face. Do whatever you feel like doing right now. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Beautiful, glowing women. Love it. Okay, back to speak of you. Are you just supposed to say yes to everything? So when things are coming to you, this is where the discernment comes in terms of, because I know I've spoken about this before, ego and soul are like identical twins. So they look like each other. In the Bible, it talks about how the devil disguised itself as Jesus. So this is where you develop your discernment around what actually, like, what is coming to you, basically, and the next step. So for instance, everything, as Tony Robbins says, everything is happening for us. So even when something bad happens, like I said, that we deem it bad because of our past conditioning, because to some people that may even be a good thing. That's shown by the fact that it's completely subjective. Even when it's something bad, you devote to it. So say my partner all of a sudden one day was like, I don't want to be together anymore. That would bring up a lot of wounding, a lot of triggers, but I would devote to that. I would devote to the unfolding of that. So I know it sort of seems like you're putting your life in other people's hands, but you're not. You're putting your life in God's hands, in the hands of life force. And it is a scary, uncomfortable way to live. But you don't make decisions anymore. So for instance, like with me, with my partner, I allow him to, so say something like, he's like, what should we eat for dinner? I'm like, and I don't really know what I feel like. I'm like, I don't know, what do you want? And then I devote to that. I devote to, I don't think of other examples because I know examples are really helpful. So basically, in response to your question, are you just supposed to say yes to everything? Everything that comes to you has to be devoted to. I feel like a politician in the sense that I'm like not answering your question directly. So it's not about saying yes, it's about devoting to the unfolding of. If anyone else has any other questions about this, do let me know, because yeah, it's really helpful to kind of dive in. Okay, so in the moments when you think nothing is happening, oh, that's a good question, Irina. So in the moments when you think that nothing is happening, so you've merged with your ego in that moment, you've merged with perception, you've merged with illusion. So what you do is you come back to the present moment, because you're merged with the past. Even when you think about the future doesn't exist right now, and the future is, even when we worry about the future, it's really the past that's coming up. So you sit with what is, you sit with, it's, I know, Irina, you were in my Magnetism on Fire program. You sit with what is, you sit with the fear, with the frustration, with whatever emotion is coming up, and you sit in I am consciousness, you sit in the present moment, you sit in awareness, and you sit with what is. You sit with what is. So with this job, for instance, and how much fear that was coming up around the job, and there's been a lot of fear and trauma and wounding that's come up around my childhood, around everything. I sat with what is. It didn't, I didn't go into like, oh, is this my inner child talking? I sat with what is. I sat with it, and I sat with it, and I sat with it. And as you guys know, who know about purification and maybe have even been practicing it now, when you sit with what is, and my friend Simone, I think, is here, who is an amazing teacher of this as well. Ego is asking. when you sit with what is, it will eventually dissolve on its own, because emotions are energy emotions. So it's literally the energy that was stored in that moment. So when you experience that thing as a child, or in a past life, or in the collective, whatever it is, you sit in it, and you sit in it until you feel like it has dissolved. And how you know that it's dissolved is that you feel a sense of peace, maybe even ecstatic bliss, which I describe as what feels like an orgasm. What feels like a high, a natural high. Okay. So in the moments when you think nothing is happening, what do? You sit with your emotions around that. You sit with your feelings around nothing is happening, because this is what we've been conditioned to do, right? We've been conditioned that, oh no, I feel like nothing's happening, so either I've got to like go out there and try, and this is kind of like the survival programming, got to go out there and try and fix it or try and change it, or we do the opposite and we suppress. Both of those things keep that energy stored in the body. That energy is that's trying to finish its journey, finish its cycle within you. So you don't try and fix or change, because when I had this conversation with this person, well, they sent me a voice note, and they were kind of in, I kind of sensed, I picked up on like the panic and the fear and the frustration and their need and their desire to want to do something about it. And so that's where you just mute someone. There we go. So in those moments, it is going to be uncomfortable. It is going to be uncomfortable to sit with what is without trying to change it, but it is the only way. The only way is through. We're taught since children that, you know, either you had emotionally unavailable parents like I did, or, you know, your parents be like, oh no, don't cry, go eat a snack, or, you know, you weren't, most of us didn't have a safe environment to feel. And so that's why we,
for fuck's sake, was macht er denn jetzt?
Oh, who is that?
Acting up, it's acting up, it's acting up.
Why can I not? Oh my gosh, what the hell? There we go. Why can I not mute? What is happening? Simone, can you mute yourself, please? I don't know what. Hello?
I want to.
Can you mute yourself? Because I can't mute you.
I can't either.
Okay. Can you leave and come back in, and then we could try again?
I want to. I want to.
I'm confused. Why isn't... Okay, I'm going to remove you and come back in, because I'm not sure what's happening.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. No, I don't want to report that. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I feel like I answered that one. Erin, I identify as a generator and following gut feelings, and I struggle with saying yes to everything. Yeah, so even with human design, obviously human design is a construct, and it can be a helpful construct, but just like any construct, it's important to not get limited and constrained and restricted within that, because Arena's coming back. Because what happens with human design, what people do, and what I used to do, is that you learn that you are a certain way, and a human mind loves clarity, it loves to know things, and then you start to live your life that way. But I was listening to Sadhguru yesterday. I love him. I love his YouTube videos. And he was saying that the difference between astrology, and obviously human design is astrology based. The difference between astrology and spirituality is that astrology encourages you to stay within the cycles, whereas spirituality encourages you to go beyond the cycles. And this is where I'm saying human design can be a limitation, just like anything can, you know, nothing is a limitation in and of itself. It's the energy behind it. It's the energy that we give to it. It's the approach that we have to it. So I would say discernment with all things, sovereignty, which comes from increased awareness, and where you say following gut feelings. I mean, again, that gut, your heart, it depends where that's coming from. This is where I'm saying, for me, and I've said this before, for me personally, at this point, I devote to what comes to me rather than deciding, because when you decide for yourself, you can't be sure where that's coming from. You can't be sure, because you could think it was your soul, but like the Bible says, it could be your ego disguising itself as your soul. I've had this, you know, I've had this happen to me many times. So I would say, yeah. Okay, so where you're saying I struggle with saying yes to everything, I'm picking up on a fear of burnout, because when you said I felt the energy drain. Yeah. Okay, so there's a fear of like burning out, exhaustion, but this is where I wouldn't even say trust, because it's kind of knowing, it starts with trust, that when you devote to what comes to you, that is God's plan. That is your divine destiny. That is your soul's path. So you won't burn out from that, because God isn't going to want you to burn out. Like, the only way that you're going to burn out is through your ego. Because even, I remember somebody said this to me, and it stuck with me, that we can never burn out when we're fueled by life force. When we're fueled, and you could say by God, by source, by the universe. And the fast-tracked, immediate route to that is in devoting to what comes to you. So you're not going to be given everything. You're not going to be given too much, which is an illusion anyway. And so, yeah, this is like future. This is mine and the ego again, because it's future, trying to future forecast. It's trying to be like, oh no, but what if your mind ego is basically saying like, what if I'm given too much and then I can't handle it? But what I know from my own experience is that what comes to you and that you devote to, you'll never be given, you won't not be able to handle it. Like, there might be times where you're like, oh my God, can I do this? And there'll be fear and there'll be doubt that's coming up, but it's like your soul was made for it. It was written in the stars. It was meant for you. The only way we burn out is through being out of alignment and being in our mind and our ego and being guided by that rather than our soul. So yeah, that's a good question though. How did you know the job was for you and for you to take that path? So how did I know that that's a good question as well. How did I know the job was for me and for me to take that path? Because it came to me. Because it wasn't something that I wanted, desired. Like, this is where there's kind of a caveat, because I know what it will lead to will be in the end what I want, because the soul does have desires. It does. Desire in Latin translates to of God, I think. But so it's not bad to have desires, but it's the way that we go about it. And the way that we go about it, because of our conditioning, is from a place of control, the illusion of control and manipulation. Like I must decide, for instance, like my soul desires to buy a house. Now, it's not my decision to decide. It's not my place to decide how that house is going to manifest, because there are the infinite potential of the universe. There are an infinite number of ways that the house could manifest. At what timing, I don't know. In what way, I don't know. It's not my job. In what house, I don't know. What the area, I don't know. It's not my job but it's not my job to know. And I've gotten to a place on the whole where I'm okay with not knowing, because not knowing is the only truth. The void, the unknown, it's the only truth. It's all that exists. Oh, Katia raised her hand. Katia, is there something you wanted to say on this, or did you have a question?
Yeah, because I have a desire for a house, right? And to me, what is crucial, I think it's just the feeling, how I would feel in that space, in that house, not where it's located and all of the fluff and how it's gonna come. So do you have the same approach, or do you even leave that out, like how you would feel in the house?
Yeah. Well, I feel like you don't even, because I've had people teach this, and you don't even need to consciously go into how would I feel, because if it's a soul desire, if it's something that you came here to not even have but experience, then you don't even need to go into like, oh, let me sit in it, see how I would feel, because you just feel it. Like when you desire something, you feel it. You don't need to go into the feeling. It's there. It's present, you know?
Yeah, true. To me, I don't even need to go into the feeling. To me, it's like a house. I feel expansion, space, all that. I don't need to go and look for the feeling.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're there in terms of like you're in the feeling. And when people talk about collapsing time or quantum leaping, jumping timelines, the only thing that's for all of us that's separating us from ourselves and our desires is our mind and our ego, is our conditioning. And so this is the reason why when we have desires, so like say with the success that I've had in my business in the past, when it came, because I'd gone about it in the way of my mind and ego, and I'd gone about it in the way of hustle and control, I didn't enjoy it when it came. Whereas when and it's also about enjoying it as it comes, and obviously now is all that exists anyway. When you're in the feeling already, not to again, caveat, not to have the thing, not to be like, please say it manifest, please, but to be in the feeling, like it's natural. It's natural. Like I feel, for me, the reason why I found love so easily is because I vibrate with love all the time. Like it's just connection, intimacy, that's not to say I don't have wounding around that, but it's like I'm already vibrating at high frequency around that, and so sure, a partner is something that I desired, but like I said, it came about in the way I was on a dating app just to have fun. I wasn't on it to meet anyone serious. I didn't, I wasn't that sure about him, like I said. And so this is where like we gotta release the expectations, the way that it's meant to go. Like having a desire in and of itself is not bad, but what creates the resistance is the way we go about it. And the way we go about it is, it must go this way. And if it doesn't go this way, then it's not going to happen. And then God is like, oh, but what about this way? And you're like, no, that's not comfortable. Don't want to go there. And then God is like, well, don't blame me. You know, you keep saying nothing's happening. You keep saying that, you know, nothing's working out. You keep saying that, oh, why don't I have it yet? That's why. You look so beautiful, Katia. Hair blowing in the wind, in the sunshine, on the beach. I love it. Yeah, so how did I know the job was for me and for me to take that path is because it came to me. And also, oh, this is a really good question because I realized this earlier, actually. Like I said, our souls incarnated as humans, and the conditioning, we chose our conditioning in contrast to our gifts, in contrast to our desires. So it's no surprise that what came to me, this job, triggered the hell out of me. Because, and that's another way that I knew, because I thought about with my partner and I thought about other things that have happened in my life where I had so much resistance to devoting to it because of my fear, because of my trauma, because of my wounding, that I was like, I held myself accountable. I was like, Lizzie, you have to do this. Like, you have to unconditionally devote to this. And like I said, it's easy and it's simple, but it's not comfortable. But what eases the process is knowing and practicing, because it is a practice, practicing sitting with what is and practicing the purification, because then you can sit with the fear. And oh my gosh, this is like what I love the most about this work is the sovereignty to be able to sit with what is and not make it mean anything, not create a story, not get entangled in it, not merge with it in the sense of trying to fix or change, but just sit with it. And in the moment, it doesn't usually feel good. And it's like, and like I said, and I feel the other reason why I know this is the truth is because there is so much evidence of this. Like, I feel like I'm getting emotional because I thought about this the other day. Like, think of Nelson Mandela, think of Martin Luther King, think of all of these people that have changed the world. Do you think it was easy to do that? Do you think that they just came up with the idea and was just like, no, they probably received, like Nelson Mandela probably received the guidance to abolish apartheid and then was like, oh shit, why have I been given this? Like, oh my God, like this is like, you know, maybe a part of him was like, I don't want this. This is a bigger responsibility. You know, a lot of people are going to hate me. All of our wounding, our biggest wound, our deepest wound is abandonment, because as human beings, our great, like, not even, it's a need, but it's also a desire to belong. The need is like the tribal instinct to belong with one another. And then the desire is to experience love and to experience connection with one another. So when something lands in you, okay, that you can, aside from devoting to what comes to you, if something lands in you to devote to and it terrifies the heck out of you and it brings up all of your deepest, darkest fears, your deepest, darkest wounds, but you're like, I know I have to do this. That's when you know that it's meant for you. That's when you know that it's your divine destiny to devote to that. And it may not even be about that. It may be that you do that thing and then you meet someone and then da 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 da. Or it might be you do that thing and you have an experience where something internally happens that it leads to something else. Like, but it's not our job to know why that thing has come to us or why we have been guided to do that thing. Like, oh, what is it? I'm literally loving this conversation right now. Richard Branson says, go towards your fear. Why does Richard Branson say that? He says that because he knows that when we do what is comfortable, don't confuse alignment with comfort. A lot of people do this. They're like, oh, it's not aligned. No, it's not that it's not aligned. It's that it doesn't feel comfortable. And therefore you're making up the excuse that it doesn't feel aligned, so you don't have to do it. Oh, it's not aligned to clean my house, I'm not going to do it. It's like, no, you just probably don't want to do it. But Richard Branson says, run towards your fear. And I feel like so many other entrepreneurs have said this. And being an entrepreneur, as we all know, is like the deepest spiritual awakening. Whether you expected to be in this or not, I certainly didn't. Oh my gosh, I did not expect to be here right now. We're talking to you guys about this like 2 years ago. No way. But go after, and there's a few other people I've seen recently say this, go after what's uncomfortable. Like every day, do what makes you feel uncomfortable. Like deliberately make yourself uncomfortable. Put yourself in situations that you know will be triggering. Like there's still a part of me that is terrified to be in a masculine dominated environment, but I know that it is going to be so healing and incredible for me in terms of my growth and my evolution and devoting to my soul's path and having all the things I want, the joy, the abundance, the fulfillment. So I'm devoting to it. And like I said, there was every part of me that was like, this is too scary. I can't do this. This is too uncomfortable. And you kind of access that a deeper layer, but on the surface, you're probably going to hear like I did, oh no, you don't want this. No, you don't want a job. Just continue with your coaching business. Like, nah, you don't want to work for this company, you know, making up all of these reasons. So Shayna said, what did you say about the devil? Ego disguises itself as soul. So Christ disguised himself as the devil disguised himself as Christ in the Bible. Yeah, you sit in the fire, exactly. How long do you sit with what is? You sit with it until it's subsided. And it may not even feel fully gone. Like I said, with me, there is an element to, because it's also the ego that is like the perfectionist, and I have my Chiron in Virgo, which is all about perfectionism. So I know perfectionism very well. There is a part of us, a part of our ego that's like, oh, but I want to wait. Like, I want to wait until I'm ready. Like, I want to feel ready. I want to feel ready to do this. But I've had people say, I'm not a mother myself, but I've had people say, you know, you'll never be ready to have a child. You'll never be ready to buy a house. You'll never be ready to fall in love. You know, you'll never be ready. You'll never be ready for anything. What even is ready anyway? Ready is a perception. I mean, your soul was born ready. Your soul was made for this. Like everything you're going through right now and every moment, your soul was made for it. And it is carving your human, and it is dissolving everything that happens to you, for you, is dissolving the separation between who you thought you were and who you really are, between your ego and your soul. So for me, for instance, with this job, I'm feeling like this fear of the masculine, and also fear of judgment, fear of making mistakes, fear of failure, fear of what will people think, all of this like wounding coming up. I still feel it a lot less than I did. So sometimes there's also action kills fear. There is also an element of that. But I know that with our deepest, darkest fears, I really do get this. It feels so dysregulating to your nervous system. Like I know that. I know how it is like fight, flight, freeze. For me, it's freeze. It's like, I freeze and I'm like, I'm going to stay in my comfortable bubble, in my comfortable cocoon. I don't want to leave. I just want to stay here. So for me, from what I like, my approach is that what number is that? I sit with what is until I feel regulated, until I feel like I feel calm. The fear may be like bubbling still, but I feel calm, because if we're waiting for it to be completely gone, then that's the ego sneaking through the back door, because that's the ego being under the illusion of control, perfectionism. So everything comes down to discernment, and discernment happens as a byproduct of awareness, and so does sovereignty. Out of sitting with it, aligned ideas, what will pop up and you devote to it? Find this, yes, it depends on situation. Yes, yeah, I love that response, Nadia. Yeah, so the more this is where the purification and devotion work hand in hand. They're like, I would say purification is the feminine and devotion is the masculine. They're like brother and sister working together. And so when you purify yourself of who you're not, and like I said, with purification, and this is where people go wrong with healing, they go about trying to find things to heal. You need to, search far and wide to find what needs to be healed. You don't need to do that, because God, source, universe will deliver you triggers that will activate wounds in you to be purified. So as long as you are aware, which is a practice, it really is a practice, because, oh my gosh, especially if it's a deep trigger or an intense trigger and therefore a deep wound, or if it is like you've experienced trigger after trigger and you're just like, and you end up in a reactive state. And obviously don't beat yourself up for reacting, it happens. But it is about raising that awareness so that you can respond rather than react. Mel Robbins talks about the pause between the stimulus and the response. Like, that's what spirituality teaches, the presence, sitting with what is, the awareness. So when you purify your wounds, you are becoming less of ego and therefore remembering parts of your soul. So you will, in the and I'm not saying do the purification for the sake, but as a byproduct of the purification, you will receive guidance on what to do to align you with your soul's path. But I would say how you know that it's soul guidance is that it scares you, and how you know that it's ego guidance is that it's comfortable. That feels like a very sweeping statement, but that is what feels true for me, at least. That when it feels comfortable, it's something that's familiar, and I'm like, whereas when it feels uncomfortable, because people talk about metamorphosis and expansion and coming out of the chrysalis and all of that stuff, and upgrades and ascension and everything, but it's uncomfortable to expand. Like, think about the stretching of anything, the stretching of the uterus for the baby to come out. Like, that's not, it's kind of tantric because it's like pain and pleasure at the same time, but it's not comfortable. It's this, childbirth, I've never given birth, but I can't wait. Part of me is terrified, part of me can't wait to, because to me it feels like the greatest tantric experience, because it is that merging, that intermeshing of pain and pleasure, which is life. And we all know that, because tantra means life, we all know that when we go through something uncomfortable, when we devote to something that comes to us and we're really triggered and we're really scared and all our deepest fears are coming up, but we devote to it anyway, like myself with the job, how you feel afterwards, or even, I don't know, I don't even say something small, but like a workout, doing a workout, you're like, oh, I really don't want to do this. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe you're like, I do like to work out, but there are some days where I'm like, I really can't be bothered. And then I'm in it and I'm like, oh, this is so tiring and I don't want to be here right now. But then afterwards, like, you don't just get those endorphins from exercising. You get them from all forms of expansion, and expansion only comes from being outside of your comfort zone. And I was thinking about this earlier, like, life has become so comfortable for so many of us, which is perfect in the Grand Awakening, because it means that we don't, like, we are so lucky and blessed that we live in a time where, and in an area in the world where we don't experience war and poverty, and there isn't this, I mean, perhaps some of you are still in this, but I know for me, like, healing the survival programming, like, oh my gosh, so intense, because we still are conditioned to be in survival, but we don't need to be anymore to the extent that we were. We're not farming. We're not terrified that a wild animal is going to come and chase us. We're not living in a war zone. We're not having to hunt and gather for our families. We're not having to sleep with one eye open in case somebody comes in and steals our things. You know, life on the whole is pretty safe for you know, for some people it isn't still, but I would assume for those of us here, our life, and this is why there is such an intense awakening happening right now, is because, and also with technology, we have with technology, we also, it gives us so much convenience so that we don't have to worry about all these other things, so that we can focus on other things like awakening. And so I've forgotten where I was going with this, but basically it is a time, like I say, it is a time of great awakening, and it is okay to feel unsafe, you know, and it is that reminder of, I'm not going to die, I'm just going for a job interview. I'm not going to die, I'm just, whatever it is that makes you feel uncomfortable. But lean into the discomfort. I swear every successful entrepreneur would give that advice. Lean into the discomfort. And if you want to read a story of somebody that, you know, transcended survival and found God and lives a God-led life and has manifested insane things, I bought this book, Viola Davis, Finding Me, after watching the Netflix interview between Oprah and Viola Davis, and it was the most, oh my god, it was the most impactful interview I've ever watched, because she kept going after discomfort. She almost, like, she lent into discomfort over and over again. She said at the age of 14, there was a voice inside of her that said, this will not be my life. I will not live a life of poverty. Like, anyone that changes their life, changes the world, they don't do it through comfort. And this is where it's so helpful to have a tool like purification, because it means that you can do those uncomfortable things and be a little afraid still, but feel like your nervous system is pretty good. Like, you don't feel like you're dying, because the body is extremely powerful, but the body is misguided. The body is misled by the mind and the ego to believe that it's in danger, because, and that's all it knows. But how does the body, the nervous system, get recalibrated? Well, you purify, You do the thing that scares you, you do the thing that feels uncomfortable, and then you realize, that wasn't so bad. Actually, that was really good. Actually, I feel really good now. And so you're like, that's the reason why people are able to, you know, do crazy things like ultra marathons and Ironmans. And like, I'm sure at the start they were like, oh my God, I can't even run 5K, you know, and then they're doing like ultra marathons. So practice, training, allowing and accepting. Yes, Katya. Rachel, so the question is no longer what do I want, is a prayer for spirit to send inspired feelings of desire. Yeah. I mean, you can do that, but also know that it's going to come to you anyway. Like, you don't even need to ask for it. You asked for it in being here. Like, in you, your soul incarnating the body that you're in, that was you asking for it. That was your request to live your soul aligned life, to manifest your soul destiny, your divine destiny, your soul's path. So the signal's been sent. The signal was sent when your soul incarnated your human body. And so all the time, because like I said, life does not stop. Energy doesn't stop. It doesn't sleep, it just keeps going. And so you are, God, source, universe is always throwing you opportunities to, because think about it, God created humans to experience itself, to experience life force in form. This 3D reality, like once you start going to higher dimensions, it's no longer form. Form can no longer exist. We were created in this 3D planet was created so that we could awaken, but also within that, so that God could experience the form. And so when something comes to us and we're like, no, I don't like, this isn't comfortable, and we reject it, we're saying no to God. We're saying no to our soul. We're saying no to ease and effortlessness. We're saying no to the path to least resistance. And again, resistance has got confused, like alignment. Resistance doesn't mean that it feels comfortable. In fact, what is comfortable, resistance means that let me rephrase that. Being uncomfortable is not resistance. It is. It's your I guess the difference is between your ego's resistance. Is knowing what is ego resistance, because your ego is going to resist something because it's uncomfortable, because it's like, shit, I'm going to die. Something bad's going to happen. You know, like catastrophizes. So, that was a great question. Yeah, human design can be restricting. Exactly. Okay, so Erin, could it still be a no if it's from a peaceful place? Okay, so with things coming to you, there's no need to feel, I'm answering this in kind of a backwards way, there's no need to feel bad about not devoting to it, because life, God, source, universe is going to keep delivering you opportunities anyway. So you are, I wouldn't say, could it still be a no from a peaceful place? I feel like that's still from a place of subjectivity, still from a place of preference. And therefore, like, co-creation doesn't mean I decide. Co-creation means God gives me opportunities, people, things. And it's not just like things to do. It could be like a trigger. A trigger is an opportunity. Trigger is a huge opportunity to purify what is not you and what was never you. So I would say the way that how I live is I devote to what comes to me, and I say no when I do say no sometimes. And I know that that is from a place of avoidance and discomfort and from a place of ego, but I'm getting there. So I feel like I would say devote to what comes to you, full stop. That's not to say I don't say no sometimes, because I do. But I don't feel like the no is, I feel like no is rejecting it, and that's creating resistance. So I don't feel like you could say it from a peaceful place. And plus, who and what is saying that it's peaceful or not peaceful? Again, that's a perspective. That's your perception based on your past. Rebecca said, I've been dissolving the triggers as they arise, and each time something presents itself, the response to the trigger lessens or becomes easier to solve. My question is, can we ever fully dissolve it if it's imprinted in our energetic body? Do we need the final step to remove it from the subconscious? So I feel like this is where I was saying that when something is dissolved, when you're dissolving something within you and you still feel like it's there, you don't need to like keep sitting with it until it's gone, because you will be gifted with opportunity after opportunity to dissolve it until it's gone. So you will receive trigger after trigger until it's gone. And in regards to the subconscious, when we experienced trauma or when our wounds were stored, they were stored as energy in our body. So what I know to be true, at least for myself, is that when I dissolve the stuck energy in my body, the belief no longer exists in the mind, or it might exist for a while, but there's no charge to it, because the charge of the thought or the belief is stored in your body. So when you dissolve the energy in the body, that thought belief may still be there, but it doesn't have a charge anymore. What does that mean? It means that you then don't merge with the thought or the belief anymore, because it doesn't have the charge, because the charge is your nervous system freaking out basically and being like, do something. And because maybe you don't have the awareness, or it's really uncomfortable or whatever, you merge, perhaps you don't know any better, this is most people, you merge with it, and then you keep giving power to the belief, to the thought. Whereas when you're triggered and it brings up thoughts and beliefs, and you sit with the energy, you're sitting with the energy to remove the charge of that thought and belief. So like I said, the thought and belief might still be there, but if it's basically going to dissolve on its own, because it doesn't have a charge. You're not giving it power. You're not fueling it. You're not giving it life. What happens when you don't give something power or life or charge? It dies. So that's what I know to be true for myself. Nadia said, I definitely agree with the importance of sitting with what is. Would love to share that trauma-informed approach would offer a different perspective, different approach and options on sitting with what is. Yeah, completely. And of course, when you're triggered and you feel, and I totally get this, because growing up, like I said, I didn't have an emotionally safe place. Like I didn't have a safe space to feel my emotions, basically. And so even sitting with my emotions to begin with was very uncomfortable. It still is in certain ways, and with, really deep wounds. So compassion and kindness for your human is really important. I know I hear people say like, oh, that's merging with the human. But whilst you awaken, you still are human, and God created you human for a reason. So it's important not to take action from your human mind and from your ego, but in terms of healing and purifying, it is, I don't know whether it's necessary, but it is helpful to honor the human with compassion in that process. Okay, oh, Susie Batiste calls it the cave of fear. Yes, oh my gosh, people go into the cave. So true. Nadia said, I imagine it'll be healing for them too. Not sure what that was about, but yeah. Healing for everyone, for all. I'm in a job that I really don't like, but I need the money. It makes me feel so unhappy and emotional, out of despair. The logical thing is to search for another job. Okay, so that's a great question and scenario to sit with. So you're in a job that you don't like. So basically that job isn't in highest alignment. Okay, so what I would do first of all is I would sit with what you don't like about it and purify that. Purify what you don't like about the job, so that, because soul does everything with love, ego does some things with love. Ego has likes and dislikes, whereas the soul just is. So oh yeah, healing for the men there too. Yeah, just seen that. Yeah. Definitely, yeah. Healing for all, unity. Okay, so sit with the unhappiness, sit with the emotions, sit with the despair, because you have manifested that job. I know you guys have heard this before, but this is the truth. You are exactly where you're meant to be. So that means that you're meant to be in this job right now. There are things that you're meant to learn in this job. And I feel like the reason why it's so triggering, like every trigger, is happening for your highest good. So you, rather than fix or, change the job or change how you feel, sit with how you feel, because this happened to me where I had jobs, and no matter the job, what do I say? Same t-shirt, same wound, different t-shirt. So no matter, like, if you don't purify this now, then you're going to experience different triggers, different opportunities in your life where these same triggers are going to come up, where these same wounds are going to come up. So this is offering you an opportunity to sit with the discomfort of being in this job, because I promise you, if you sit with this, and you don't, not even sit with it to purify it, but you sit with it, you sit with what is, acceptance, making peace with what is, and then I promise you, because I feel like this is going to happen for you, you're going to change your vibrational state. And as we know with manifestation, what that means is you're going to attract new opportunities. So either, I don't know, we're not supposed to know what it is. It could be that you, I don't know, get made redundant and get a big payout, or you, I don't know, get fired, but then another amazing job comes up, or suddenly the things that you don't like about the job change. Like, everything is changed from the inside out, from the energy. So I get it. The logical thing is to search for another job, because that's how we've been conditioned to change our circumstances. But our circumstances change. What is it Wayne Dwyer says? Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change, or something like that. So yeah, that's my conclusion. Feeling excited and ready. Yes. Arena, is soul guidance always scary? No, it doesn't have to be scary. That was the blanket statement that I made about soul guidance feeling uncomfortable. Sometimes soul guidance, it just feels right. It feels neutral. It feels indifferent. You're just like, I'm not really another thing with soul guidance is that there's not an agenda. It's like with our ego has such an agenda. It has a plan. It's like, it has to go this way. It has to happen that way. But with our soul, it's free. It's limitless. And so when your soul guides you to do something, it's going to feel, you may feel confused. You may be like, I don't know why this is happening, but this is, oh, you're welcome, Daria. I don't know why this is happening, but I feel it. Like, I feel that this is what I'm meant to do, you know? So I also feel like the soul guidance is, it's not always scary, but it is, it doesn't have an agenda. And there's a lot of like unknowns, because unknown is the only truth. One may feel peace if it's aligned, even if it's a no. Yeah. I mean, I feel like from my own experiences, I feel like I said, it's not a bad thing to say no, because more opportunities are always coming. There's an infinite number of opportunities. But I personally feel I'm at the place of surrender where I'm like, it's not my job to decide where something is right for me or not, because from what place am I deciding? So one may, yeah, I mean, if this is the thing, it may feel aligned to say no, and that may feel peaceful, but like that could be coming from ego. Like, you don't know. This is where I was saying the discernment comes in, but then you're not always 100% sure. That's why I rather take the approach that I take, not like to take all the time, sometimes dislike to take, which is devote and then purify, because it always works out for me best that way. I may not feel like it in the moment. Arena, my little problem is to know the balance between waiting for the right thing to come to me and taking action seems aligned. When after sitting with what is, you feel calm, peaceful, what do you do? Wait till something comes up, and as you say, devote or take aligned actions. So like I said, God's source universe is always going to be delivering you with opportunities, whether that be things to do, triggers, people, opportunity, like, I don't know, we're not meant to know what that is. So you don't need to worry about like, a thing's going to come, because that's like saying, am I going to breathe? Am I going to see, you know, is the sun going to set and is the sun going to rise? Like, it's a given, you know. Is there going to be energy in the universe today? Like, it's a given. So taking actions if it seems aligned, like I said, when you take your own action, when you decide, it's kind of a bit of a risk, because it's like you can't ever be sure, because I thought that I was taking that action from a place of soul, but it was actually my ego disguising itself as soul. And I know that the resistance, the fear around waiting for things to come, well, not even waiting, because you don't need to wait because things are just always flying at you, but devoting to what comes is the absolute surrender that's required. And how scary the unknown is for our human that wants to be in the illusion of control. But from my experience, that is the path to least resistance. It's not comfortable, but it is, like I said, like I don't know what's in store for me. I don't know what's in store for any of us. That's the beauty and magic of life, the unknown. It's one big glorious void. So we need to get out of our heads of needing to know, and also exit the illusion of control, exit the illusion of thinking that we know, because our mind ego has taken the front seat. This is why I was saying the mind and the ego is not a villain and shouldn't be demonized, but it's taken a front seat where it was always meant to be the secondary character. It was never meant to be the main character. The mind and the ego has a place, yes, but we've given it so much power and we've put it on such a pedestal that we allow it to dictate and control our lives. And that is what keeps us separate from effortlessness. That is what keeps us separate from commanding miracles. And miracles are neither good nor bad. That's an interpretation again. It keeps us separate from merging and aligning with our divine destiny. So I would say more so devote to what comes to you rather than you deciding. Even though I know you deciding feels so much better. I know it does. But it does get easier. It does, well, who knows if it gets easier? You just, well, yeah, it gets easier as you become less merged with ego and it has less of a hold over you. So Rachel said, could you give us a quick overview of the purification process? Yeah, so when a trigger comes, when a wound is activated, an emotion arises, and this is good and bad triggers because both are manifestations of ego, because the soul doesn't have preferences. And if you live your life by preferences, i.e., this is the action I want to take, this is the action I don't want to take, I'm not going to go align with this, go with this because it's scary, you're always going to live a life of limitation. You're going to live with impossibility rather than potentiality. So the emotion arises and you sit with what is. You literally sit in it. You sit in the emotion and you are going to feel like, oh my God, I want to get out of this right now. You're going to feel like, I want to go get a snack. I want to go, I don't know, read a book. I want to do something to avoid feeling this feeling. Or, oh my gosh, I feel this feeling. Where is it coming from? Let me change the belief. Let me rewire my subconscious, and you sit with all of that because this is a non-judgmental place. You sit with what is, and then you sit with what is, and you sit with it until you feel that it, and this is where, because I used to say until you feel it's dissolved completely, but really deep wounds, sometimes like they take a few triggers, and you still have that feeling slightly, but you feel more at peace. You feel regulated. That's when I'm like, okay, I can come out of this state. Not even out of this state, but I can come out of the purification because I feel regulated. I still may feel it a little bit, but I feel at peace within myself. And I feel like, okay, I can go on. I can devote to this without merging with my mind and my ego, without merging with fear. And without, then, of course, because when we merge with it, and this happens like speed of light, it happens instantly, people will, people merge with things, merge with their mind, ego, they merge with the emotion, they merge with the feeling, and then before they know it, they're taking action. And it's like, all the while, God, source universe is like, hello, divine destiny over here, that's effortless for you. I don't actually know when the job starts yet. He's like preparing some things, so I don't have a start date. Jessica said, thank you so much for your point of view on the job matter. When I look back at things that came on my path and past really beautiful things like meeting my big love, yay, but I realized that I lost those things because I started to try to change the path from conditioning what society thinks about it. Yeah, exactly. When people say life is beautiful and magical, it doesn't mean, and when people say God is great, God is good, it doesn't mean good, great, beautiful, magical to the ego. It just means good, great, beautiful, magical, full stop. Okay, so I basically ended up doing like a Q&A then, which was really fun. And I love this. There is such a massive opportunity for expansion and saying yes to source. Yes, there is so much courage in how to show up. Yeah. think it's also key to trust or know in that God prepares us like human before we are given manifestation, learning your boundaries, for example. All this part of the art of being human, so sacred, yes. Yeah, I mean, for me with boundaries, I feel like boundaries are a lot of the time a manifestation of ego, and it's us trying to protect ourselves. And what are we protecting ourselves from? That's what I always ask myself. What am I protecting myself from? Because yeah, I hear people say that. I hear people talk about boundaries. Yeah, I guess there's caveats with everything, isn't there? In terms of, but again, God sourced the universe, life shown through nature. Nature doesn't need to have boundaries. Flowers, trees don't need to have boundaries. Trees aren't like, hey, don't be coming in on my branch. This is my square footage. So I know that God's source, the universe, life takes care of us. And so we will always be taken care of. And I trust and surrender to that, because that is why we're here. Okay, so I wanted to announce something exciting, that because I thought there'd be a lot of questions after this. So earlier I downloaded a 3-day group program, and the price is £555, which the price ends tomorrow and then goes up to 888. But it's basically going to be 3 days of intense Telegram support and 3 daily group Zoom calls to basically practice what I've talked about today, to actually live through it. So it's going to be very, this sounds weird to say, but it's going to be very much life based. It's going to be based on what is going on in your life right now and how to, I suppose, interact with that, and how to merge with the way, the effortless way, how to merge with your divine destiny, how to merge with your soul's path, how to command miracles, how to purify, how to unconditionally devote, how to surrender deeper and deeper to God's source, the universe, life force, how to unplug from ego, or at least from the role that we've given ego. So I'm going to put the link where you can find out a bit more. And if anyone has any other questions, you can let me know. But yeah, it literally starts next week, because I wanted to do this really soon, because it's very much in soul alignment for me right now, in terms of what I've been going through and how I now live my life more and more every day. And it's uncomfortable, but it's the best way. It's the most beautiful, magical way, because it is the only way. It's the only truth. So yeah, oh my gosh, I feel like I have so much more to say, but maybe I'll do a follow-up. Who knows? Let me know. Yeah, let me know if you guys would like a part 2 of this, and I'll let you know when I'm next doing a masterclass. Yeah, if you have any questions about the offer, let me know. And yeah, a lot to absorb and sit with, I know, even for me. Even for me. Full circle to what you shared at the beginning. That's so funny, Isabella. What's just happening in my life? Literally cyclical. Everything is a cycle. I love that. Well, thank you, ladies, for coming. Thank you for your shares. Thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your transparency, for your openness, for your integrity, for your authenticity, for all the things. Yeah, all about expansion, not comfortable, but the only truth. Thank you, Nadia, for your shares. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. And yeah, I would love for as many of you as possible to be in this 3-day thing next week. Let me know, as I say, if you have any questions. Oh yeah, so the purification. Oh, by the way, guys, actually, this might be a good idea. If I give you the link to my free 3-day, gosh, I don't know where it is now. 1 second, stay on, because I'm just going to send you Telegram link for my free 3-day group thing that I did a few weeks ago called Explode, because in there I've got video on how to purify, and I talk in there about how to purify. So so you can literally like see me and hear me talk about it. So some of you are already in there. I think that's how you know about this. Okay, so you can join that. I'm also on Instagram Threads now. I don't know if anyone else is on that. It's all going on. And then I have, maybe I should send you as well, I have my other Telegram group, which is an ongoing one called Daily Codes, where I share insights. Okay, how do I no, going into another thing. Oh, 3 of you are joined. Hello. I'm just like, what are these notifications? Okay, let me share my free one as well, because that's an ongoing thing where I share codes and stuff. So yeah, explore, explode. There's literally so many messages in there. It was the most amazing 3-day thing I've ever run. Some of you were in there and it was incredible. And yeah, if you want to do a 3-day thing, 555 till tomorrow. And yeah, gonna have a really intimate, expansive and comfortable, but amazing time. Okay, so much love to you all. Thank you for being here, and I will see you on the internet. Goodbye. Oh, somebody. Oh, Kim was there. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Joy. Joy is one of my middle names. Love that. Love to you all. Bye.